Hey, Jon-Mark Patterson, the Reactionary Hippie, back for more. I live in northern Colorado along the Front Range, and I got to tell you about this past couple of days. Over Labor Day weekend, it was 98 degrees. I was cleaning out the yard, working outside, sweating like crazy, getting ready for what was coming. At the same time, there was a wildfire 30 miles away exploding over 100,000 acres. Worried about the firefighters up there and the people exposed. Ash raining down in our city. Looked like we were on our way to Mordor, looking at the consistency of the sky, the blood red sun. It was unbelievable. And then after Labor Day, on Tuesday, today, we have several, there's an inch or two of snow sticking out there. It's about 30 degrees. The snow is going to fall through the night. Very strange. We've protected the garden as best we could, harvested a ton of stuff. We'll see what happens. Hey, it's 2020. You never know what's going to happen. Tonight, we're actually busy canning. We're getting all the produce that we can put up. We've done a bunch of that already, but the beans have just exploded in our garden. The canning, pickling cucumbers, we're putting up tons of those. Terrible year for peaches in Colorado, and we're really proud of our peaches here. Not in the Front Range so much, but Palisade and other microclimates on the western slope of Colorado grow amazing peaches. And some years we'll put up, 30 quarts, and I'm going to be lucky to get 10 quarts this year. We found some peaches that were brought here from Idaho, so thanks, Idaho. Tough year for Colorado. All right, I'm not going to talk about canning all night here, but it's on my mind indirectly because winter storm, in the bigger picture, I think winter is coming. And I mean winter with a capital W, in that it's going to be an interesting fall and winter this year, one of the strangest ones that we've had in a long time. So let me step back and say one thing I want to talk about is ordinary politics versus revolutionary politics or unusual politics. Politics where the river runs over the bank and floods and changes the landscape. Think about sports. It can get pretty ugly, it can get pretty rough in a game that is still within the rules. Right? You can get bruised up pretty badly. It can be a brutal game, brutal tackles in rugby and football. But it's a whole different environment when someone pulls off their helmet or pulls off someone else's helmet and starts taking a punch at them. You've transgressed the rules. You can be as rough and tough and violent within the rules as you need to be, as you want to be. But the minute you direct that violence outside the rules, all bets are off. It's not the same. It's not a game anymore. And the kind of hits that might break someone's leg or, frankly, in their career, if they're done within the bounds of the game, within the rules of the game, they're just bad luck. It's unfortunate. But when you haul off and hit somebody, when you don't do it within the rules of the game, well, now it's assault. Now it's attempted murder. It's different. It's outside the rules. Americans don't realize how lucky we are that as nasty as our politics have become or have been in the past, we've stayed within the rails. We've stayed within the rules. For years, I used to make fun of people. No, that's too harsh. But I'd kind of give them grief. They'd say, "Oh, this is the most important election ever in American history." You can always find someone to say that every 4 years, and they're almost always wrong. Or you find people to say politics is awful. It's nastier than it's ever been. And I say, do you ever hear about the election of 1860? How about 1800? 1800, Thomas Jefferson was accused of being a revolutionary, bloodthirsty atheist supporting the French crazies and ready to bring the guillotine to the USA. John Adams was the monarchist stooge of the King of England and ready to bring a new reign and call himself the regent. But none of that happened. None of it was true. Politics have been ugly for a long time in this country, and they always will be. People are fighting for power. They're going to push as far as they can. They're going to cross the line sometimes. But we haven't had any elections, besides arguably 1860, that were decided by troops in the streets. And that's a great thing. Sometimes other countries lecture the United States because we don't seem as democratic as they are, or as egalitarian as they are. They might forget we're a continent-sized nation with a incredibly diverse population and a strange history. But even a country I admire like France, that is a very stable, very prosperous, very democratic, very egalitarian, very intellectually powerful and diverse country, man, in the time we've had one republic modified by Civil War, modified by the changes of the 20th century, but still one republic and one constitution. France has had, 5 republics, a couple of monarchs, a couple of emperors, foreign occupation. I mean, the stability of the United States is remarkable. And that's why I hate to say this, because I think I've been a naysayer for all these years about this election being the most important ever. I'm not going to say this one is, but I think these times are different, where people are willing to cross the line from, I'm going to fight you as hard as I can to win, but in the end I'm going to accept the result, to nothing is legitimate anymore. I'm not going to accept a result that I don't like. And that concerns me a lot. And some of the criticism of this has been on President Trump. And I've watched news conferences of his where the reporters try to goad him and try to trap him with a gotcha question of, well, won't you put on the record now that you are going to abide by the results of the election? And I think with a gotcha question like that, he's given the only answer you can possibly give, which is, well, we'll just have to see, because I don't know what the circumstances will be. And I don't always care for Trump's bombastic, crude presentation of himself. But it's a package deal. He is who he is. I think he's given the right answer when he gives that answer to those questions. What concerns me more is that there have been elements of our government that have tried to undermine his presidency from the beginning. And I mean that, elements within the government. We can use buzzwords like the deep state. But there's a permanent bureaucracy that was not reconciled to Trump, and there's a political opposition that was not reconciled to him either. That's why we had an impeachment proceeding. That's why we've had attacks on him incessantly that are drumbeat of incredible criticism, and then they just disappear and we move on to the next manufactured crisis. I agree, Trump is not sympathetic a lot of the time, but he's never had a chance to govern, and he's been attacked from the beginning as illegitimate. Well, what do we care now? Maybe Trump will win, maybe Biden will win, I don't know. But I was really concerned to see reported mainstream media, perfectly normal interview, Senator or Secretary Hillary Clinton saying to Joseph Biden, no matter what, don't concede the election. I've never seen anything like that before. I mean, President Trump is asked if he will concede the election if he loses, and all he said is, well, we'll see what the circumstances are, which is a little weird, but I guess the only answer you can give to a gotcha question like that. But here is Hillary Clinton, the defeated Democratic candidate in the last cycle, telling the current Democratic candidate, don't concede, no matter what. She's saying that there's no way the process can be right if it doesn't give the result she wants. That's revolutionary politics. That's saying the rules don't apply anymore if I don't get what I want. I'm not going to wait around and fight by normal constitutional means to win the next time. We're simply going to say no if we don't like the result. A couple of months before that, I was surprised to see Senator Biden himself, or Vice President Biden, I want to give the proper title. I'm torn. Which one's higher, Secretary or Senator? I want to give proper respect to Mrs. Clinton as well. Vice President Biden mused that it might take the United States military to remove President Trump from office. And the media sort of celebrated that. It wasn't, wait a minute, no one's supposed to talk about the military being involved in selecting the president or removing a president from office. That's a coup. That is something the United States has never had to endure. It's a terrible fate that many other countries have, and it leads to some nasty places. Why would anybody who is a candidate for president of the United States endorse the notion that the military should be a power broker? I'm really concerned about that. Look, you're going to hear this theme a lot when I talk. Institutions are breaking down. People are giving up on what we have. And part of the reason is that the elites are desperate to hold on to power when they've done a terrible job. If they were corrupt and incompetent, like in China, I suppose we could make our peace with that. But they're corrupt and incompetent. And that's why there's so much dissension, and that's why there's so much concern in this country. Because I think people know deep down our institutions are failing. So it's going to be a rough fall and a rough winter. I'm afraid people are primed for revolutionary politics, and it makes me very sad. But I'm not going to hide from it if that's what's coming, and I'm going to keep canning, and I'm going to take care of my family, and I'm going to keep doing my best. And I'm an optimist deep down. No matter how rough this gets, there'll be something on the other side. And there'll be people ready to rebuild institutions on the other side and ready to learn from our failures. So hang on. You haven't seen anything yet. Even you, Northern Colorado, with your wildfires and 98 degrees one day and 30 degrees and snowfall in the next. It's going to be an interesting 2020. The rest of the way, too, just as it has been so far. Be ready for the ride, and we'll get through, and we'll make it to the other side. And then maybe there'll be something better. So hang in there. Revolutionary Hippie says, Revolutionary Hippie? So that was the theme today. I'm the reactionary hippie, but sometimes that sort of sounds revolutionary in times like these. But be careful of revolutionary politics. You may not be interested in politics, and I don't blame you. And most people don't pay attention to them, and they're good and normal people. But sometimes politics is interested in you. So be ready for that. Adapt. Come through to the other side. This is the Reactionary Hippie, signing off from snowy Northern Colorado. Thanks.